Hi there, this is Rachel Adner, and I am a 2014-2015 graduate associate for NASPA, and this is my project proposal for the conference internship. So a couple of things that will be covered in this presentation, tips to consider when registering for a conference that's going to be geared towards graduate students that are registering, strategies to maximize the experience at NASPA. I've geared that towards NASPA kind of as an organization. Networking for graduate students, and then what to do in terms of following up after the conference. So things to consider when registering: early bird rates. Frequently, conference registrations are a little bit cheaper the earlier that you register. So if you know that you're planning to attend as a graduate student, it would be beneficial to register as early as you can. Consider presentation opportunities. Is there a poster session that you can attend, that you can present? Can you co-present with someone either at your institution or someone that you previously connected with? Sometimes if you do present, sometimes you can get discounts in terms of registration or lodging, or it just depends on the association. Who's going? Look to your cohort in terms of what other students are going. Can you share gas if it's close enough to drive? Can you share a hotel room once you get there? Those are things to consider to keep costs down as well. Also, professional development funds or a scholarship. Just make sure that if your assistantship offers professional development funds, that you're taking advantage of that. Oftentimes a graduate school will offer professional development funds, and also individual program graduate student associations may also offer funding, so just make sure that you tap into all those resources. There's also usually scholarships of some sort, either if that's by individual conference attendees that do that, or through the National Association. So those are all things to consider. So the first strategy I have to maximize graduate student engagement at a conference is being assigned a conference mentor. So I know that it's easy for graduate students or someone that's never attended a conference before to read kind of what to expect at your first conference, but it's very different once you get there if it's your first time. So my suggestion would be to have someone serve as a mentor, someone that's attended the conference several times, or a veteran in the field, that maybe that person, the graduate student, could connect with beforehand, basic Q&A before arriving. Maybe they could meet at registration or sometime in the first day to just kind of connect. And then maybe one other thing, such as a dinner out with colleagues of the mentor, so that graduate student can feel kind of connected early on in the conference. This wouldn't have to be kind of a hand-holding situation. You wouldn't expect that the mentor would spend all the time with the graduate student, but I do think that it could be beneficial if a graduate student had someone that they knew, that knows the conference well, that could kind of assist them along the way. The second idea I have is meet your match. So this idea came from my work at NACAC, another professional association similar to NASPA, and we did this at our national conference, and it was really, really successful. It's a fun and interactive way to network and meet others. Pretty much how it works is you get a number at registration, just a random number that's on a button that you could wear, with your lanyard, and the goal is to meet as many other people with your number, so your other matches. And at NACAC, it was several, usually between 7 and 10 people had the same number, so we encouraged that through social media. People were tweeting about their location and where to meet if they had a certain number, and it got a lot of positive feedback, and people were really into it. And it was an easy way to network. You saw someone, and then you had this number, so you were excited about that, and then obviously that led into networking automatically. So that could be, I think, in terms of depending on how many attendees and the size, you could do it with just graduate students. You could do it by functional area if you really had the time to be able to kind of sort through that. But it's just a cool opportunity and a kind of a different way to engage at a conference the size of annual conferences. Another item that I have, idea, would be to highlight sections in the guidebook that may be beneficial to graduate students. So I know that when you get the guidebook and you see just the sheer number of sessions that are going on concurrently, it can be really scary sometimes to try to pick. So it could be interesting to be able to highlight sessions that may be useful for graduate students and even first-time attendees that might focus on the job search or the first year in your first job, etc. And lastly, socials. From my experience with NACAC, I know that socials can be somewhat, they can seem somewhat exclusive. So if you're not connected either with that region, or it sometimes can be difficult to kind of feel like it's your place to go. So my idea for this would be to either the graduate student could attend with a conference mentor of their choice if they did want to attend a social, or there could be some kind of social for first-time attendees or graduate students, so that still kind of get the idea of a social and what that networking piece kind of looks like, but you don't have to kind of deal with the exclusivity sometimes of large socials. So in terms of engagement for graduate students while at in-person events, including conferences, I think something important to remember is that you should engage with people that you don't know. Now, in our field, I don't think it's frequent that someone's going to see you standing there not talking and they're not going to engage you, but that's not always the case. So don't be afraid to walk up and introduce yourself to a group that's already talking. Another thing would be to have your elevator speech ready, 30 seconds, kind of what you do now, what your plans are, what you hope to do, maybe what you're trying to get out of the conference, so that it's quick and easy, and that would be an initial connection. Another idea would be to follow social media. A lot of really engaged people in our field are involved in social media, and so that's an awesome way to, it's an awesome conversation starter for one, but if you've been following social media for someone that you are really interested in what they have to say and they are at NASPA, it's a very easy way to walk up to them, or even not even at the conference, but just at any situation, walk up to them and say, hey, I saw this is my thought. So social media, I think, is huge in the higher education world. And also keep up with your business cards. I know that frequently a lot of them get passed out, so my suggestion would be to write a couple words or phrases on the back of each business card. Obviously not right in front of that person, but once you're finished having a conversation with them, so that you can remember to follow up, and your follow-up is specific to each person. And lastly, after the conference, make sure you follow up. You'll have all those great contacts that you've met, and that's why I was saying to write words or phrases on the back of the business card, so when you reach out to them, you're able to remind them the conversation that you had, maybe something that you had in common, and then that'll be an easier trigger for them to remember who you are. Everyone's meeting a lot of people, so anything you can do to stand out, I think, is beneficial. Also, be intentional about what you're taking back to your institution. Have intentional conversations with your supervisor in terms of what you learned, what sessions you attended. I think that can be beneficial for your supervisor to understand what you wanted to do and why you went. It can also be beneficial for them to support you in future professional development funds, especially if you're a first-year graduate student and you have another year. But just be intentional about having those conversations and what you maybe hope to implement or gain after going to this conference. That concludes my presentation. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed it.